One of the most diverse and accomplished American vocalists of the 1970s was a woman who started her career early in the decade singing on albums by Norman Connors and Stanley Clarke, among others, and in 1974 released her first album, Afro Blue, on Trio Records in a vocal jazz vein, and switching more towards soul music. She released an album on Atlantic in 1976, and during the last 3 years of the 1970s, she put out 3 back-to-back albums on Elektra. And from the first, I am talking here about Dee Dee Bridgewater, a woman who has spanned jazz to soul to funk music in her lustrous career. And from that 1977 album, Just Family, the track Thank the Day You Walked Into My Life. Already we've got this grandiose intro that kind of like opening the gates type of intro with like rays of light coming in as represented by the sustain notes in the keyboard, and we've also got the sparkling little piano adding touches of glistening and of course the epic like slow drum rolls and such. In your arms I welcome the kiss of a new day. Secrets of the night close to my mind. Dance and play. Make a wish and hope that this dream is here. Her vocal lines are very angular in this. The track is written by Gilbert Moses. Yeah, words and music, and the lovely keyboards we are hearing are courtesy of Bobby Lyle, who was very prolific as a as a solo artist between the early 70s and the late 90s. I was just thinking that year he put out a quite well-regarded album in rare groove circles, The Genie, jazz funk album on Capitol Records. Hear how she stretches out certain vowels and kind of almost quivers right at the end of them during those sustain notes. It's amazing. She has this way of elongating certain words and then throwing in just a touch of melisma right just before she lets go. And she has a really great command of the mid-range vocally. Some of the techniques are slightly evocative of Denise Williams in the kind of quivering range I'm thinking of, except Dee Dee Bridgewater has much more command of the mid-range and is much more like adult in her overall delivery and manner. Oh, just hear those glissandos like sprinkling up, like glistening up like that on the piano. And notice how the bass notes are really well paced and timed. It, I am just amazed how they find like where to put certain notes. It's not like they're following just some regular pattern here. It's like he knows what notes to put in, which ones to leave out. The bassist is doing something complementary but slightly different to what to the vocal line, and it is played by Ken Wild, who has 126 credits according to Discogs. Grew up in Honolulu, Hawaii. Interesting. Someone part of a group that elite club of musicians to have hailed from the 50th state. Oh, our bassist, Ken Wild, he played with the band Seawind, yeah. Soul funk band from Hawaii, good band. And also played on Harvey Mason's Earth Mover album, and has even been on some Japanese jazz funk albums, like a title by Toshiyuki Honda, Burning Ways, yeah. And yeah, so quite a colorful career there he's got. Oh, he was even on a Robbie Krieger solo album on Blue Note. Yeah, X-Doors Robbie Krieger put out a good jazz funk album in '77, same year as this. And drums are by Norman Farrington, who has quite a colorful list of credits here. Well, 14 of them, but they're all, the covers are some classics from the Philadelphia International Records roster, 2 albums by Billy Paul, an album by MFSB. Oh, he was on War of the Gods by Billy Paul, yeah, classic. And after this, it seems like he primarily played with our guy there, and also has some credits with the Intruders, the 3 Degrees, the OJs. Yeah, talented guy. Hear that sustained, shimmery, kind of like ray of light synthesizer that's in the background, adding fullness to the whole sonic backdrop. That is the string ensemble. It is played by Stanley Clarke. Yes, the one and only. Yeah, normally when people think of Stanley Clarke, they think of the bass, but he, is a multi-talented, a multi-instrumentalist, and he provided some arrangements. He's kind of like returning a favor since she sung on Children of Forever a few years earlier. vocals are just so melodic over this. I mean, and doing their own thing. It's like you could take her part of the track and do an instrumental out of it, and you could then take the backdrop, the backing instrumental, and do that separately without vocals. And I swear they could almost act as independent pieces of one another, but they come together just beautifully. Hear all those notes they're holding on. It's like we've got all these open cadences, like the sustained string ensemble, just like running throughout the backdrop, the glissandos on the piano, the epic, like, you know, drumming, slow, like anticipatory, and the bass that's just so selectively placed, and of course her beautiful sustained command of the vocal range. And I couldn't find the lyrics printed anywhere, but I'm pretty sure it's a beautiful, wonderful sentiment. I mean, the title in and of itself is, you know, uplifting. Thank the Day You Walked Into My Life by Dee Dee Bridgewater, written by Gilbert Moses. I didn't really notice much guitar on there, although David T. Walker is credited with playing guitar, but that must have been pretty low in the mix. I wasn't really hearing much of that. I let you know what I heard. I was trying to point out the different aspects, the different layers of beauty in this track. In case, but then again, that's what I always try and do. I try and take tracks apart musically and point out this, point out that, and rather than just say it's beautiful, I try to describe it in more vivid language, slightly musical, slightly metaphorical, to make the beauty kind of self-evident, to make it sound more interesting. And in case that like someone may not have quite noticed it because they're just kind of noticing the whole piece kind of as one kind of lump sum that's just passing them by, or they're maybe noticing certain details, but they're not quite getting it per se because they haven't really developed the ear for that sort of thing, or the appreciation. And I try and kind of lead the listener more in a positive direction trying to just offer suggestions as to how to look at it rather than and that's what you know, people with, you know, vast experience as listeners ought to be doing, you know, with people that they are, you know, initiating. Anyway, Dee Dee Bridgewater from her 1977 album Just Family, her third solo album, and her second after branching out from vocal jazz and embracing more styles. And here, you know, we've got quite a command of, like, well, we've got soulful vocals mixed with sort of a classical a somewhat quasi-symphonic, quiet storm backdrop, and to beautiful results. And she would cover a lot more ground over the next three years. And after 1980, sadly, she took a big break from the music industry and wasn't really prolific in that decade. It would be another 7 years before she recorded again. It was a live album, and she's been sporadically active since 1989. For more rubies and sapphires from the catalog of Dee Dee Bridgewater, see the directory of albums by American soul artists, linked in the description below, for all the albums by Dee Dee Bridgewater from 1974 to 1980, as well as other 70s era soul artists like 70s and 80s era soul artists like Stephanie Mills, Melba Moore, Candy Staton, Cheryl Lynn, Marlena Shaw. The list goes on and on and on. See them all. And like and subscribe and follow me on social media to know when the next video is coming out. And if you have any comments you would like to make about this track, any insights you may have or things that you were struck by, comment on that below. And until next time, this is Zaragon, the world's most ear-traveled maximalist, signing off.